They say if you ever walk through Azaalu, especially when the wind is strong and the sun begins to set, you might hear the elders whisper a name. Kambi, they say, the girl who walked where only warriors dared. This is not a story found in any book. No. It lives in voices, in drums, in firelight, passed from grandmother to grandchild like a secret treasure. Azaalu was once a quiet village. The people farmed. They fished. Children played in the red dust while old men sat under the iroko trees, telling stories of the past. Life was good, peaceful. But just beyond the hills was another village, Obalik, and between them there was old trouble. No one remembers who threw the first stone. Some say it was about farmland. Others say it was pride. But one thing was clear. The peace between Azaalu and Obalik had long turned into silence, and silence is sometimes more dangerous than war. Then, one morning, the sound returned. Drums. Not the soft ones played during weddings. No. These were heavy and deep, the kind that made the ground shake and the birds fly away. The war drums had started again, and with them, the tale of Kambi began. The gong rang out across Azaalu. Gong, gong, gong. It was not a call to feast, not a call to dance. It was the call for warriors, a sound that meant one thing. War was coming. The village square filled quickly. Men came with machetes on their backs. Boys stood on their toes, hoping to be seen as strong enough. Even the elders came, their walking sticks tapping the ground like old drums. In the center of it all stood the village leader. And beside him, Obi-Egu, the war chief of Azaalu. Tall, proud, with a voice like thunder and eyes sharp like a hunter's. He had led men into many battles before, and always returned. But this time felt different. His name was called once more. Obi-Egu, son of the soil, the land calls you again. He nodded. No fear on his face. No smile either. In the crowd, standing behind two women, was Kambi, his only daughter. She was just 18, but already wise beyond her age. Her hands were tight at her sides. Her eyes followed her father closely, trying to memorize every step he took. As the warriors prepared to leave, Obi-Egu walked over to her quietly. He placed his strong hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Take care of your mother, and if I don't return, be strong, my daughter." Kambi wanted to speak. She wanted to say, "No, stay. Let someone else go." But her lips stayed shut. Only her eyes spoke, filling with tears that never fell. Beside her, Adabi, her mother, stood holding a small charm. It was tied with red thread and carved with ancient symbols, a charm for protection. She didn't speak either, just clutched it tightly, her lips moving in silent prayer. Then the warriors marched out. The sound of their feet faded into the forest, like the last beat of a drum. And in that moment, the wind blew gently through the village, as if even the trees were holding their breath. 3 days passed. The village of Azaalu waited. Every ear listened for the sound of returning footsteps. Every eye looked toward the path through the forest. But the warriors did not return. Then, on the 4th morning, a boy came running into the square. His feet were bare. His chest rose and fell like a drum. And his eyes were full of fear. "They were attacked," he shouted, "at the river of snakes. Ambushed." The village fell silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The elders gathered quickly, and the boy dropped something at their feet, a blood-stained cloth and a broken spear. It was Obi-Egu's spear. The strongest man in Azaalu, the fearless war chief, was gone. There was no body, No clear answer. Only silence and blood. Adabi fell to her knees and let out a cry so deep, the birds flew from the trees. Her hands shook as she grabbed the broken spear. She held it to her chest and wailed like the river itself had broken inside her. The men, Obi Egu's brothers, spoke with clenched fists. "He must have been betrayed," one shouted. "We must burn Obelik's farms," said another. "Let them taste fire for what they've done." But in the shadows, someone else was listening quietly. Kambi. She stood alone near the doorway of their hut. Her eyes didn't cry. They stared straight ahead, cold like morning dew before sunrise. Her jaw was tight, her breath slow. That night, while the others slept and her mother lay silent beside the fire, Kambi rose from her mat. She tied her hair back with a piece of her father's old cloth, took a small dagger hidden behind the calabash pots, wrapped her feet in thick cloth so no one would hear her steps, and she stepped out into the night. The moonlight followed her as she disappeared into the bush. No one saw her leave. No one would believe what she was about to do. The forest was thick and alive. Birds cried in the trees. The leaves whispered with the wind. But deep inside the bush, far from the village paths, Kambi was not afraid. She walked until her legs ached and her throat burned. Then she found the hut, hidden between two great trees, covered in vines. This was the home of a Janwa. Many years ago, a Janwa had been known across Igboland. She was fast, smart, and stronger than most men. But they said she was cursed, because she fought like a warrior, though she was a woman. So the elders cast her out, sent her to the edge of the world, where the forest keeps its own secrets. And now Kambi had come to her. A Janwa stepped from the shadows. Her skin was dark like the river stones, her arms lined with old scars, and her eyes sharp, too sharp for someone who lived alone. She looked at Kambi and said, "You want to fight?" Kamba nodded. "You want to avenge your father?" She didn't speak. She only placed Obi Egu's broken spear on the ground. A Janwa looked at her for a long time. Then she smiled slowly. "Then throw away your name. You are not Kambi here. You are no daughter. You are no girl. You are a shadow." From that day, the training began. A Janwa taught her how to throw spears with one hand and two, how to move without a sound, even through dry leaves, how to hide in trees, and how to listen, not with ears, but with her skin and breath. Kambi trained under the rain. She ran with thorns in her feet. She slept on cold ground and woke with ant bites. And every night she grew stronger. When a Janwa finally nodded, Kambi knew what to do next. She wrapped her chest with long cloth, hid her soft skin with palm ash, and tied her hair under a cap made of goat hide. She wore loose clothes, took a new spear, and walked toward the gathering place of the warriors. No one looked twice at her. No one saw a girl. They saw a strange young boy with pale ash-covered skin and a quiet spirit. They called her Nwokoka, the pale-skinned boy, the one who didn't speak, but whose eyes watched everything. Kambi had become a ghost among men, and not even her uncles knew that Obi Egu's daughter now walked beside them. The harvest season came to Azaalu. Laughter filled the air. Women danced with baskets on their heads. Drums echoed through the hills. The yams were big, the wine was sweet, and for a moment, the war drums felt far away. But war does not knock before it enters. Just as the sun dipped low, and the children gathered for roasted maize, a scream tore through the air. Obelik warriors had come. They charged in from the east, their faces painted red, their machetes flashing in the firelight. They swung through the crowd like a river gone wild. Panic broke out. People ran. Calabashes smashed. Mothers grabbed their children. But one figure did not run. Nwokoka, the pale-skinned boy, stood his ground. He leapt into the fight with no fear. His spear moved like lightning. He blocked an axe meant for an elder. He pulled a wounded man to safety. And when a blade flew toward his uncle's back, he stepped in and took the hit on his shoulder. Blood ran, but he didn't fall. The warriors of Azaalu saw him then, not as a boy, but as a flame. Then came the giant, Ogo Obesai, the strongest fighter from Obalik. His arms were thick like tree trunks. His voice boomed across the square. "Who will face me?" The others stepped back. But not Nwokoka. He stepped forward. The two circled like panthers. Ogo swung first, a wide, heavy strike, but the boy dodged. Twice. 3 times. Then Nwokoka rolled under his arm, drove the spear low, and struck behind his knee. The giant fell. Gasps rose from the crowd. The pale-skinned boy had defeated the monster of Obalik. Ogo Obesai groaned on the ground, eyes wide with disbelief. The people stared at Nwokoka. "Who is this boy?" they whispered. "Where did he learn to fight like that? He moves like water but strikes like thunder." And one elder said softly, "He fights with a woman's heart, brave, wild, and full of fire." They didn't know how right they were, because hidden behind the ash and the cloth was Kambi, the daughter of Obiegu, the shadow who now stood in the light. The night after the battle was quiet, too quiet. Kambi sat by the fire with the other warriors, but her ears stayed sharp. As others laughed and shared roasted yam, she listened to the wind, the shadows, the silence between words. And then she heard it. 2 captured Obalik fighters were speaking in low voices behind a hut. "They'll never see it coming," one whispered. "Poison the stream before dawn. By the time they drink, they'll fall like flies." Kambi's blood turned cold. The stream was life. The village drank from it, cooked with it. If it was poisoned, there would be no tomorrow. She had to stop it. That night, under the full moon, she wrapped herself in the long wrapper of a palm wine cellar, darkened her face with soot, and tied a wide basket to her head. Her steps were quick but quiet, like a fox in tall grass. She walked straight toward the Obalik camp, her heart beating loud in her chest. No one stopped her. "Palm wine! Sweet palm wine!" she called, like any tired village girl looking to earn a few cowries. The guards laughed, waved her through. Inside the camp, she searched for the leader's tent. But what she found instead made her stop. A small hut, guarded by no one, covered with thick leaves. She felt something pull her close, a strange warmth in her chest. She slipped inside, and there he was, tied to a post, his head low but alive. Obiegu, her father. His beard was longer now, his body thin, but his spirit, still burning in his eyes, was strong. He looked up slowly, and their eyes met. He gasped, not because he saw Nwokoka, but because he saw his daughter. Kambi pulled down the scarf, just for a moment. His voice came out rough, broken, but full of pride. You have your mother's spirit, and my fire." Tears filled her eyes, but only for a second. She untied his hands quickly and whispered, "I'm not done yet." Then she slipped away into the dark, leaving her father hidden. Because now she had a village to save. The moon was high. Its silver light spilled over the forest, and the air was thick with tension. Kambi moved fast, returning from the enemy camp with one mission in her heart: bring her father home. She slipped back into the Azaalu camp and gathered 3 trusted warriors, men who had seen Nwoke fight, but still didn't know the truth behind the ashen cloth. "The chief is alive," she whispered. "We strike tonight." No questions, only nods. They followed her into the shadows, silent as smoke. When they reached the edge of Obelik's camp, Kambi led the way, weaving through trees, crawling through bushes, pointing with quick fingers. She knew exactly where the guards stood and where they didn't. They reached the small hut. Inside, Obiegu sat waiting, still weak, but with fire in his bones. She burst in first, cut the ropes, and whispered, "Baba, we're going home." But just as they stepped out, a shout rang through the camp. "Intruders!" Torches lit the night. Swords clashed. Obelik warriors swarmed. Kambi fought fiercely, guiding her father through the chaos. She blocked an axe with her spear, kicked a man in the chest, spun like a storm. But in the rush, her scarf slipped. Her hair tumbled out. Her chest wrap loosened. And in the moonlight, they saw her. A warrior shouted, "Wait, he's a girl." Her own uncle, Ifani, one of the fiercest men in Azaalu, turned, eyes wide. His machete was raised, ready to strike down the intruder who had fooled them all. But when his eyes met hers, he froze. "Nwamaka," he said, like the name was a ghost. She stood tall, shoulders squared, blood on her face, spear still in hand. "I am my father's daughter," she said, "and I will not kneel." Silence fell. Then her uncle lowered his blade. Pride filled his face. He nodded once, then turned to fight beside her. Together, they cleared a path through the trees. The warriors followed. Obiegu, weak but standing, leaned on their shoulders. That night, the soil drank blood, but the forest whispered something new. Azala's fire had not died. It had simply changed shape. The night passed. The forest grew quiet again. But the war was not over. Obelik had lost many, but they were angry, wounded, and planning revenge. They marched toward Azala's hilltop, the final stronghold, the heart of the village. And this time, Kambi stood at the front. Not in disguise, not in ash, not as Nwoke, but as herself, the daughter of Obiegu. Her chest was wrapped in a warrior's cloth. Her hands held her father's repaired spear. Her face showed no fear. Obiegu stood beside her now, leaning on a staff. His body weak, but his pride stronger than ever. When the war horn was passed to him, he did not lift it. He turned and gave it to Nwamaka. The warriors gasped. She held it with both hands, looked to the sky, and with one long thunderous blow, she called the village to rise. Not just the men, not just the fighters. Women came, too, with farm tools, with courage, with fire in their hearts. Old women sang war songs from long ago. Young girls carried stones in their wrappers. The people of Azaalu rose not just as fighters, but as a family. When the Obelik warriors saw the hilltop filled, men, women, elders, even children standing proud, they stopped. They had never seen a people so united. They had never seen a girl lead a charge. They turned back. That day, the war ended without a sword being swung. Peace talks began. And when the council gathered under the great Irako tree, the place where only men once spoke, a chair was left open, and Kambi sat in it. Some elders shook their heads. Others whispered. But no one dared stop her. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. We must stop fighting over land. Our children's bones should not feed the soil. No one argued, because she had walked where only warriors dared. Because she had faced death and returned with truth. Because she had earned her voice, not just with blood, but with heart. Kambi, the daughter of Obi Egu, was no longer just a girl. She was a legend. The war was over. The drums that once called men to battle now called children to dance. The cries of pain were gone, replaced by the sound of harvest and hope. Obi Egu, strong again, stood before the village. But this time, not as a war chief. "I have fought my battles," he said. "But today, I step aside, for a new kind of warrior has risen." He turned toward his daughter, Kambi, standing in the sunlight, her spear now polished with pride, not blood. The crowd cheered. Tears filled Adabi's eyes, not of sorrow, but of joy. She held a new charm in her hand, one shaped like a girl holding a spear and a leaf. Then the elders did something never done before. They gathered in the village square and raised their staffs high. "We name this ground," the oldest elder said, "Kambi, the place where strength and wisdom meet." The same square where only men had once trained, now echoed with the voices of boys and girls, side by side. They threw spears together. They practiced songs of protection. They learned not just how to fight, but how to lead, to listen, and to build peace. Kambi became their teacher. She no longer needed a mask. She wore her name with pride, like armor. And when the youngest children asked her, "Can I be a warrior too?" she smiled and said, "If your heart is ready, you already are." And slowly, something changed in Azaalu. Not just swords and shields, but minds and stories. And from that day, a new proverb was born, passed from mouth to mouth, elder to child, fire to flame. The womb births warriors, too. And no one ever doubted that truth again. They say, when the moon is full in Azaalu, and the wind stirs the tall Irako trees, if you listen closely, you can still hear her chant. Not a chant of war, not a cry for blood, but a song of legacy. Soft, strong, eternal, like footsteps on old earth. One evening, many years later, a small girl sat beside her grandmother under the same tree where Kambi once stood. "Grandma," the girl asked, "did Kambi truly fight with men?" The old woman chuckled. Her eyes sparkled like moonlight on water. "Child," she said, brushing the girl's hair gently, "Kambi didn't fight with them. She led them." The girl's mouth opened in wonder. Was she not afraid? The grandmother smiled wider. Oh, she was. Brave people always are. But fear never stopped her. It only reminded her what mattered. They sat in silence for a moment, the wind dancing through the leaves. In the distance, the village square now known as Kambi was alive with children, laughing, learning, training. Boys and girls, side by side. No walls between them. And as the drums began again, not for battle, but for dance, the girl whispered, "I want to be like her." Her grandmother nodded slowly. "You already are. Because in Azaalu, legends don't die. They live in stories. They walk in dreams. And they rise again. Every time the moon is full." Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.